Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Arctic blast, the south prepares as temperatures plummet. Warnings of snow, ice and treacherous driving conditions tonight.
So has the proper winter weather finally arrived, and what does tomorrow hold in store? I'll have the full forecast later.
Also tonight, after decades of delays, a tunnel at Stonehenge gets the go-ahead. But campaigners call it a self-destructing time bomb.
And advantage Southampton, who are now just 90 minutes from a Wembley Cup final. But frustration for Klopp, whose Liverpool stars just didn't get the message.
Good evening. Temperatures are plummeting with warnings of snow, ice and treacherous driving conditions across the south this evening. 80
flights have already been cancelled at Heathrow. The airport says the aircraft that can fly will have to be de-iced to make sure they can take off safely.
100 farmers in Hampshire are on standby with snow ploughs. They'll be called upon to clear the region's country roads if needed.
In Dorset, the council has 12,500 tonnes of salt ready to be spread across the region's road networks.
And in West Sussex, 9,500 tonnes is on standby with gritters on alert.
Well, in a moment, Simon Parking will be here to tell us what we've got in store. But first, Penny Sylvester's at a gritting depot at Hook in Hampshire.
The crews at this depot are not just braced, they've been out and about for the last couple of days because the ground temperature is actually lower than the air temperature. So their winter season actually started back in November. And while for some of us this is an inconvenience, there's a little bit of excitement about the snow, for others there's a real hardship in this, as Rachel Hepworth reports.
When the temperature plummets, most of us just turn up the thermostat. But for the hundreds of people living rough in the south, there's no easy option.
It drops below zero, so you're sleeping in wet sleeping bags, wet clothes, and it's just finding somewhere with a shelter, really.
Dan has spent years living on the streets. He's now getting help in a hostel, but he's fully aware of the dangers facing the homeless this winter.
People could die of hypothermia because they haven't got the right weather gear or no sleeping bag and things like that. So it is hard. It is hard.
The Society of St James helps people across Hampshire, operating a severe weather programme when the temperature plummets.
So we'll create extra spaces, we'll put people in our lounge just to keep people out of the cold. This is a hostel for 26 homeless people and is full at the moment. So in order to react to the cold weather, we'll just bring people in on a temporary basis.
They aren't the only ones preparing for cold weather. The gritters have been out across the south today, with driving conditions expected to be hazardous.
Give yourself plenty of time, really plan your journey, even if it is just going to work, plan it very well, keep wrapped up warm and have plenty of supplies with you.
It's been a few years since we've seen conditions like this at airports in the region, but today airlines have cancelled a number of flights at Heathrow because of predicted wintry weather, with knock-on effects at Gatwick and Southampton. Elsewhere, farmers with snowploughs are on standby to help clear more isolated roads, and the elderly and vulnerable are being urged to stock up on essential items. Those in real need will be helped where they can, but on the streets, even buying a hot drink for someone can really make a difference in this icy snap.
That's probably one of the main things you miss is a cup of tea. So,
it's a simple thing, isn't it?
A simple thing like a cup of tea can go a long way, yeah.
Rachel Hepworth, ITV News in Southampton.
15,000 tonnes of salt here at this depot. It's a major operation to get it out on the roads, and one of the men responsible for it is Councillor Rob Humby. Mr Humby, you've got to get this right, haven't you?
Absolutely we have. We started planning for this yesterday morning. We constantly monitor the weather conditions continuously. We monitor the road temperatures as well, so we make sure we target our resources where we need them.
And it's not just the major roads, is it? You try and get the minor roads.
Absolutely we do, but we concentrate on our priority one routes first. That's all the A roads, all the major roads. 85% of Hampshire traffic uses that roads, and once we've got that sorted, which takes about 4 hours, and then depending on the weather conditions, and it is challenging because of the rain we're having now as well, we would then go on to some of those B roads, some of those minor roads as well.
We've had a couple of mild winters. You've had it lucky, really. You've got plenty of stocks. You shouldn't get it wrong this time, should you?
Well, that's what we plan. We have a whole team there monitoring all those conditions all the time. We do have 25,000 tonnes in stock at the moment. We have 40 vehicles out on 24/7 standby, so they will go out and target those areas where we need it most.
And what would you say to motorists using the roads briefly?
Well, certainly, obviously be patient when we're following our gritters as well. They're out there doing that job to keep you on the road and safe as well. But just be a little bit patient with them and obviously drive according to the weather conditions.
Councillor Humby, thank you so much for your time. Well, as you can see, it is a big operation. They will be going on through the night. They will go on through tomorrow. And in fact, the winter season doesn't end until next April.
Well, our weather supremo, Simon Parkin, is here now. Simon, we've had the warnings of snow, but there's also sub-zero temperatures on the way this evening.
Yes, our wintry mix continues, the rain, sleet and snow. But as the clearing skies develop through the night, temperatures are going to plummet. And because there's been an awful lot of rain today, whether you've had rain or sleet or snow, it's going to be lying on the ground. And untreated surfaces are going to be quite slippery. So the journey to work or school tomorrow morning, pavements in particular, could be a little bit on the slippery side. And here is the ice warning. You can see basically covering much of the region. So do take extra care tomorrow, but still a risk of more wintry showers first thing as well. But I'll have more in the forecast later.
Simon, thank you very much indeed.
And remember, you can visit our website for any updates on snow and ice and get Simon's latest weather forecast, of course. Go to itv.com/Meridian.
In other news, the body of a man from Hampshire who was killed fighting in Syria has been recovered. Ryan Locke, who was 20 and from Havant, died last month during a battle in Raqqa. He'd volunteered to fight with Kurdish troops against the so-called Islamic State. Kurdish activists say Ryan's body is now awaiting repatriation to the UK.
2 men arrested in connection with a fatal hit-and-run in Brighton have been bailed. A 78-year-old man was killed on St James's Road in the city on Tuesday. The car was being pursued by police at the time. The 2 men, who were 33 and 35, have been bailed until the end of next month. The Independent Police Complaints Commission is investigating the incident.
Well, they can blind pilots and could cause a plane crash, and now there are calls for high-powered laser pens to be classed as offensive weapons.
Well, the most recent figures show that in 2015, more than half of British pilots experienced a laser attack. At Heathrow Airport, there were 121 laser incidents reported, while at Gatwick, there were 39 reports of them being used.
More recently, though, planes flying in and out of Southampton have been targeted, as Kerry Swain now reports.
High-powered laser pens pointed into the night sky at planes. A joke to those responsible on the ground, potentially deadly to the pilot and passengers above. In 7 days, 5 aircraft flying over Southampton were targeted.
I have one here with me, which is a higher powered green laser pen of 2000 milliwatts, and a laser pen of this type can hit an aircraft at 18,000 feet and higher.
Police say a large number of incidents involve young people whose parents either don't know their child owns a laser pen or believe it to be a suitable toy. But wrongly used, they say, a laser can be a dangerous weapon.
The worrying factor is that the strength of the lasers seems to be increasing, the ones that are falling into the hands of the ne'er-do-wells that use them. It's purely malicious. The people that have got the strong ones, there is no need to have one at all. If you're found in possession of one, it should be like a knife, at the very least a knife. It should be classed as an offensive weapon, and that's what we're asking for.
We have a medical issue with one of the pilots after a laser incident after takeoff, and we're going to return to Heathrow.
Laser attacks at Heathrow forced one plane to turn round and damaged another pilot's eyesight. No one was hurt in the incidents in Southampton between December the 30th and January the 5th, but police say at worst a plane could crash.
By pointing it towards an aircraft, there is legislation which means that they can be prosecuted for it. There have been incidents where people have gone to prison for lengths of between 6 and 12 months.
The long dark nights have seen an increase in laser attacks on planes. Hampshire police are appealing to anyone with information to come forward. Kerry Swain, ITV News.
Staying in the air, and it's going to get quieter for those living under the flight paths at Gatwick and Heathrow Airport. The government's announced plans to cut night flight noise by reducing quotas and setting a strict cap on the number of flights. It will also encourage airlines to use quieter aircraft. Current night flight rules expire in October. A public consultation will run until the end of next month.
Another day of strike action has been announced by Southern Railway Guards. The 24-hour walkout will take place on the 23rd of January. The recent dispute has cost taxpayers £60 million, according to the RMT union. They say that under Southern's contract, the government pays for any ticket money that's lost from not running a service.
The most expensive railway car parks in the country are in the Meridian region. Southampton Parkway, Guildford and Brighton are second, third and fourth in the list, costing between £13 and £15. The most expensive, though, is in Reading, where it costs £23.70 per day.
Dorset County Museums received a major cash boost. It'll get £10 million from the Heritage Lottery Fund towards its redevelopment. The museum in Dorchester has plans to build new galleries plus a state-of-the-art learning centre.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up, Simon's on Snow Watch with your all-important weather forecast.
Plus, what's in a name? How Winchester University is testing anonymous student applications, but why?
And for more on all of our stories, you can head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter.
Well, it's been talked about for 3 decades, but a tunnel at Stonehenge has finally been given the go-ahead, despite fears it could blight the historic landscape.
Yes, the government has announced it intends to turn the whole length of the A303, which passes within a few hundred metres of Stonehenge, into a dual carriageway with a 1.8-mile long tunnel past the stones.
This involves the development of the 1.8-mile tunnel past Stonehenge, which will protect the World Heritage Site from traffic, reduce local congestion and speed up journeys to and from the region. We are committed to upgrading the remaining sections of the A303 between the M3 and the M5 to dual carriageway.
But the plan is proving controversial. Earlier, I spoke to Andrew Alcorn from Highways England. Andrew Alcorn, campaigners claim this tunnel will cause irreparable damage to the landscape and damage to one of the most precious prehistoric monuments in Europe. Will it?
No, it will not cause that. It will actually enhance the World Heritage Site and enhance the setting of Stonehenge. The road scheme will actually also then improve journeys for those using the A303 and also improve the journeys and the life of those communities along the 303.
Well, you say that, but the Amesbury Museum and Heritage Trust describe it as, and I quote, a self-destructing time bomb which would do nothing for traffic problems. What do you say to that?
And what I would also quote back is then ICOMOS and UNESCO International, who actually say that a tunnel of 1.8 miles long, if designed sensitively, will enhance and improve the World Heritage Site and would be a benefit.
Meanwhile, the Stonehenge Alliance are calling for a longer tunnel to lessen the impact on the stones. They say your tunnel's not long enough. What's your reaction to that?
I'm aware of the Stonehenge Alliance's view. What I'm here today is actually to promote what we believe is the right solution for the Stonehenge, and actually that is deliverable and is committed by the government.
You see, the Transport Secretary, Chris Grayling, says this plan will transform the A303, cutting congestion, but isn't £2 billion and the risk of damage too high a price to pay?
What we're actually going to do with this solution is improve the World Heritage Site, enhance the World Heritage Site, improve journeys for those road users, and actually also then improve the environment for the community of Winterbourne Stoke. That's benefits.
We shall watch and wait with interest the public consultation on this. Andrew Alcorn, thanks for talking to us.
And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
23 individuals and organisations may face criminal action over the Hillsborough tragedy. 96 fans died in the disaster. Charges could include gross negligence, manslaughter and perverting the course of justice. And the former England manager Graham Taylor has died. He was 72. And we will have tributes to him and the rest of the day's news at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. Now, this year's deadline for university applications is this weekend, and for the first time, thousands of students will be having their application forms scrutinised without their names being known.
Yes, the University of Winchester is taking part in a pilot scheme to avoid any risk of discrimination and bias. Our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford has been finding out why names matter.
My name's Anika Mazumda. My name is Alice Stone.
It's Daniel Khan.
These sixth form students at Peter Symonds College in Winchester have been busy putting the final touches to the application forms that could decide their futures. But if they decide to apply to certain universities this year, their names will be hidden from admissions tutors. It's a pilot scheme being run by 4 universities to test if it can remove the risk of unwitting bias, discrimination or elitism.
I think it's brilliant. I think you should be able to just pick people just on their grades.
A name can show a lot about a person in terms of maybe gender and ethnicity. I think that taking that out of the equation would be such a good idea.
My name's Sam Andrew Power, double-barrelled surname.
What potential bias do you think an admissions tutor might bring to that name?
I'm not sure, maybe they might assume that I'm middle class and think maybe that they want me more.
The University of Winchester, which receives around 10,000 applications, will be taking part in the trial alongside Exeter, Huddersfield and Liverpool. Winchester's Vice-Chancellor Joy Carter explains why they wanted to be involved.
I don't believe that there is a problem with unconscious bias in the higher education sector, and there's lots of good research that suggests that that might be the case. But we're really keen to ensure that really is the case, and that's why we're taking part in the trial.
But there's plenty to suggest there might be long-standing issues with what's called unconscious bias. Figures released last year show that while 55% of white applicants receive offers from top universities, among black applicants it's much lower, 23%. And privately educated pupils applying through the central system called UCAS make up around 7% of the population, but fill 40% of the places at Oxford and Cambridge. Some students say this year's trial is long overdue.
I feel like this shouldn't even be an issue now in the 21st century. I think we should be moving on to other issues and not focusing on things that should have been fixed ages ago.
Bias expert Dan Robertson says it's not just on paper that universities and businesses need to do better. He cites a famous example where an orchestra only addressed its male-dominated membership by conducting auditions from behind a screen. It also made candidates take off their shoes so no one could hear the high heels clicking on the stage.
The Boston study shows us that we're prone to a whole set of biases, but once you put in some mechanisms, i.e. the screen, it does have a mitigating effect. Sometimes it's about saying to what extent do we miss talent based on some fairly arbitrary factors.
University applications close on Sunday evening at 6 o'clock. Candidates will be hoping that whether their name appears on the application form or not, their talent shines through. Christine Osford, ITV News.
More cheering onto football and a great win for Southampton last night. They beat high-flying Liverpool in the first leg of the EFL Cup semi-final. Kerry Johnston saw all the action at St Mary's.
In a game of few chances, it was Liverpool who looked more likely to score in the early stages. Fraser Forster keeping the Merseysiders out with a good save. But against the run of play, Southampton took the lead. A neat finish from Nathan Redmond. The under-pressure £11 million man answering some of his critics with his first goal since October. Saints should have made it 2 just before half-time. Redmond's shot blocked by Lloris Karius. The second half was a more open affair. Cedric hitting the side netting when perhaps he should have done better. Liverpool's Daniel Sturridge was then handed a note from his manager. But whatever was on it, it didn't help his side, as 8 minutes before time, yet another chance for Redmond, this time hitting the crossbar. 1-0 is how it ended, with Saints manager and fans happy with their team's display ahead of the second leg at Anfield.
Fantastic for Saints, did very well today. I was actually a little
bit precarious before the game. Played very well indeed.
2 would have been better, but going up there is going to be a little bit hard on it.
Pretty good tonight, actually. Yes, well pleased.
A great performance against this team, against this player. I think it was important to keep this result with a clean sheet, with a win, and to keep chances for a qualifier for the second leg against away against Liverpool, and we will see this.
A good night's work then for Claude Puel's side, and a precious lead to take to Anfield in 2 weeks' time. Kerry Johnston, ITV News at St Mary's.
Well done, Saints. Meanwhile, Reading are in action tonight at the Medeski Stadium as they take on QPR in the Championship. The Royals are currently sitting third in the league, but will be without captain Paul McShane as he continues to recover from a wrist injury. Kick-off is at 8.
Now, it's just over 6 months since Britain voted to leave the EU. Since then, have you changed your shopping habits at all?
Well, the pound has been pushed to a 31-year low against the dollar and Who's Donald? And the Tonight programme has been finding who the winners and losers are. Here's Kevin Ashford.
Families across Britain are finding the pounds and pennies in their pocket are not going quite as far as they used to. Bex and Jim and their 5 children are having to watch what they spend.
Budgeting is quite important with having the 5 girls, definitely, because obviously it would be very expensive. We do have to control what we're spending.
I think the main things is food. We spend quite a lot on fuel,
diesel.
Clothing's becoming
increasingly expensive
with the older 2.
They're not alone. In a survey for ITV's Tonight programme, 58% of people questioned believed some of their costs had increased since the vote to leave the EU. And almost 3/4 were worried what price increases would mean.
The fuel 12 months ago, it was down at a reasonable price, but now all of a sudden it's a case of it's shot up.
Things like travelling and shopping, you know that it's costing more, especially travelling and accommodation and going out to eat at a restaurant.
The fall in the value of the pound since the Brexit vote has pushed up some costs.
Because the pound has fallen, it is more expensive for manufacturers of everyday objects like food and clothes to import things, whether that's ingredients or individual objects from abroad. Now, that leaves them with a decision. Either they can pass part of that cost onto the consumer, or they can change the design or the ingredients of that product to make it cheaper to manufacture.
There are some winners, though. For this vineyard producing English wine, the falling pound has been great for business.
For us, it's fantastic news. And I know that may not be great news for everybody, but for us, it means that all champagnes and Proseccos and Cavas and wines that come from around the world are more expensive in the UK, making our wines relatively cheaper in the vital UK domestic market. It also means that we're attractive when we go to export.
One forecast reckons food prices in this country could rise by more than 5% in the first half of this year, putting pressure on family budgets across the UK. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Joining me now is Adam Shaw, who we saw briefly in our report and who presents tonight's programme called Your Pound, What's It Worth? Adam, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, were there any surprises for you? How are most people feeling about their pound in their pocket?
I don't know if it was so much as a surprise, but there was a genuine and strong feeling, I think, of confusion and worry about what's happening to the pound. More than half the people we covered in our survey, especially conducted for the programme, thought that prices would rise, and a lot of people are very concerned about what is going to happen because of the falling value of the pound.
And obviously the pound's value is a challenge for some, but as we saw in our report, some businesses are benefiting.
Yes, of course, some businesses are going to benefit from a lower value of the pound. One of them that we saw is Chapeldown. It's a wine company based in the south of England, makes a lot of champagne-like wines, and their wines are suddenly cheaper than their competitors in France, so they're benefiting. And also a lot of companies that sell a duty-free or stuff to foreigners are now finding, well, foreigners want to come over because it's cheaper to be here, and they're seeing a boost as well.
And we heard about petrol and clothing prices going up. Which other areas could households see a rise in costs in?
Well, in the UK, we import a very high percentage of our food, and we are talking to companies which are very concerned about that impact on British food prices. And indeed, experts in the programme really do predict quite a rise in food prices over the next few months as the lower value of the pound starts to kick in.
Look forward to seeing more later on this evening. Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
And tonight, Your Pound, What's It Worth? is here on ITV at 7:30 this evening.
Well, the weather is what we're all talking about, and Simon's back with us now. Simon, so what's happening out there?
Well, we said the other day 10 to 20% chance of some disruptive snow. Probably about right, to be fair, because we've seen snow falling. Our cameras have been out across the region having a look at the snow as it fell. Thankfully, because it's so wet on the ground, because we had so much rain, a lot of the snow isn't sticking. So it's a slushy mess out there. Winchester looking a little bit bleak, and that is Crawley, where it does look like it's coming down massively, doesn't it? We've also had some brilliant pictures being tweeted and emailed in. The snow, of course, came in from the west. First to get his car covered was Gary Denton in Upper Basildon. Nice car as well. And the Holly in Roy's Garden in Basingstoke, finally looking festive. Look, just a couple of weeks too late. And does it count as proper snow? Well, we're still on the fence. That's Amanda's Garden in Eastleigh. And here's Dylan in Sherfield on Loddon, who either has a bit of snow falling on him or a terrible dandruff problem. But finally arrived in the southeast as well. Not sure that anything hung on Trevor's washing line in Sittingbourne is going to dry. But obviously the snow is just part of it, and the next phase is the cold weather and the icy implications of that. So we're not out of the woods yet.
And because it's England and very contrary, of course, tomorrow things are going to get a little bit better.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a lovely day, a lot of sunshine tomorrow, but trust me, it's going to be very, very cold.
Who'd be a weather forecaster, eh?
Well, not me on a day like today. I need a darkened room to sleep in now.
OK, let's find out then. Here's your forecast, Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, after a messy and uncertain day of weather today, tomorrow is looking, well, a bit less stressful, although there will be a fair bit of ice around first thing. Although, as this picture from Malcolm reminds us, ice can look very pretty. This was the roof of his car during our last cold snap, and certainly expect something like this on your windscreen first thing tomorrow morning. But through Friday, there are a few snow showers running down the east coast, but for us, a lot of winter sunshine on offer, a very cold raw wind, and then through the weekend we start to pick up the influence of the high pressure down to the southwest, and that means things will turn a bit less cold through the weekend, but also a bit wetter from the west too. For tonight we still have that snow warning in place. That's because the band of rain, sleet and snow is continuing on its journey eastwards, so still a risk of something falling over the next couple of hours, but then it clears, and then aside of an odd shower, we're looking at a lot of dry weather through the night, and it's after midnight that our snow warning turns into an ice warning, plummeting temperatures, and where of course we've seen a lot of dampness from the rain and the sleet today, that's where temperatures of -1, -2 will lead to slippery surfaces if they're untreated. So for first thing tomorrow morning, expect another tricky rush hour. Still a few snow showers first thing in the morning, but a lot of dry and fine weather as we head through the day. But that wind stays strong, coming straight down from the north. So whilst it says on here 3-4 degrees being your high tomorrow, it's actually going to feel more like freezing, and very gusty winds along the coast and choppy seas into the bargain too. As for your high tide times, well, you can see on the Isle of Wight around 20 to 1 in the morning, then 5 to 1 come the afternoon.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Now just time to tell you about tomorrow evening's programme, and somewhere guaranteed snow and icy conditions over the next few weeks will be the European Dog Sled Championships in Germany.
Yes, and Matt Hodgson from Brighton will be competing, although it will be the first time he's ever raced in snow. We shall be catching up with him and his beautiful huskies in training.
And in just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News this evening with Mary Nightingale.
Sangeeta's got Outlet News, so do join her if you possibly can. For now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Take care.
Stay warm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.